And now I'd like to introduce my friend and classmate, Thomas.
Throughout my 6 years at the college school, I have learned one thing that stands out more than anything else, and that is, you learn the most when you're challenging yourself. When I was in 5th grade, it was very hard for me, from hour-and-a-half classes to writing 3 journal rights a week. I remember when I was about halfway through 5th grade, my mom told me about a friend of hers that had a son that went through 5th grade. He said, even though it may not seem like it, it'll be worth it at the end. I thought he was crazy. There was no way this would be worth it. I thought we were just wasting our time. Now that I look back and reflect on what I've done, I realize that that year was more beneficial to me than any other year. That year, I had grown as a student by pushing myself and learning the limits of how much you can do if you set your mind to something. That summer, me and my dad went on a hike that we had been planning on for years. The year before, we had hiked partially up to get a feel for what it would be like. The day finally came around where we had to wake up early and head out. When I arrived at the trailhead, I looked up at the daunting 20-mile hike in front of me. The first part was familiar, but beyond that was uncharted territory. By about noon, we had reached the tree line. We hiked for about another mile, and it looked like we weren't getting any closer. We still hiked, and it looked like we weren't getting any closer. We thought we could see the end, but when we found out it wasn't the end, our disappointment was immeasurable. This was the hardest part for me, because it seemed like we weren't getting any closer, and each step was getting harder. But when I got to the real end, I looked around for a while and realized everything I had just gone through, every moment where I wanted to turn back, was now worth it. In 6th grade, on the last night of wilderness, after we had been canoeing for hours, we arrived at where we were going to sleep, a nice, dry rock overhang. As we were unpacking our gear, it started raining and getting dark, so we hurried up under cover. But there just happened to be a queen bee where we were planning on sleeping, so we had to stand out in the freezing cold rain without any light. We ended up getting in a small huddle under a ledge, which would probably hold like 2 people. At this moment, I was questioning why I went to such a crazy school. Then Francis, our junior leader, told me, it's the hardest times you never forget and you learn the most. I remember this and think of it often when I am struggling with something. Throughout my years at the college school, I've learned to challenge myself through many opportunities. Like that time in 5th grade when I learned the importance of pushing yourself. Or that summer going into 6th grade when I had to struggle to decide whether I should give up or keep going. Most importantly, when Francis told me, it's the hardest times you never forget and you learn the most. All these moments lead back to one thing, and that is, you learn the most when you're challenging yourself. Thank you.